name is Julie Pearson Littlefender. Today is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016, and I'm interviewing Jeff Jensen for the Cowboys in Every County interview series, sponsored by Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. Mr. Jensen, you're an Owasso resident and president of Bank First here in Claremore. You got your undergraduate degree in accounting and finance from OSU. You've been active with the OSU Foundation, as I understand it, and the Spears School of Business. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Sure.
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad was a draftsman for Phillips Petroleum Company for 33, 34 years.
And how about your mom?
Mom was more of a homemaker. She did work here and there, but mostly was a homemaker raising 3 kids.
So what were they, brothers, sisters, and where were you in the lineup?
I am the youngest. I have a brother who is the middle child, and then an older sister.
What was it like in Bartlesville as you were growing up?
Oh, it was very great place to grow up as a child, with Phillips there, all the amenities associated with having a Fortune 500 company in a town of, at that time, probably about 28,000. So we had a lot of opportunities for athletics, bowling, swimming, all that provided by Phillips Petroleum Company. So pretty neat place to grow up.
What kinds of things did you do for fun?
Well, I played baseball, and also started wrestling at a young age at the Y.
Are we talking middle school?
Actually, we're talking grade school.
Wow.
So, yeah, and baseball was a big deal during that time period, and wrestling during the winter time. So, sports took up a lot of our activities for both my brother and I.
Were there any signs of your interest in business when you were young, or particularly banking?
Well, yeah, we were definitely middle class, and I started working at a fairly young age. I started mowing lawns, earning my own money, and then I started working pretty well full-time in the summers when I was 16, and I think my first job was with a hot tar roofing company, which certainly I learned really quick that I wanted to get an education.
You didn't want to be a laborer.
No, that was not going to be my career move.
And you were managing your money pretty well.
Yes. I actually had to pay pretty much my own way through school. Mom and Dad contributed, I think, $50 a month toward my room and board, and the rest was on me. And thank goodness for Lou Wentz loans, and I had one of those for every semester to help me pay for my tuition. And then I worked nights at the Oak Collegian, running the press and getting the Oak Collegian newspaper out.
Oh, yeah.
And did that for 4 years.
Oh, that's really interesting. Just to go back to high school for a minute, what was your favorite subject?
Oh, it was definitely math. Yeah. Some of the sciences,
right.
But mostly math. Yeah.
Had your parents gone to college?
No, neither one of my parents went to college.
How did they encourage you to continue your education?
There just really wasn't any option. I mean, it was just, you're going. And I think my sister certainly set the way for us, for my brother and I. And
she was the first one.
She was the first one, and she actually, I think, got most of the brains in the family. But she has her doctorate degree in microbiology and teaches at University UMass in Amherst. And actually, in high school, she was finished 4th in the nation in the science fair, and she was injecting, this is back in the 60s, injecting white mice with cancer cells and then dissecting them and showing the progression of cancer as a high school senior. So,
Wow.
very bright lady, and so she kind of set the bar for my brother and I, which we never met, but that's okay.
Well, so did she go to OSU for her undergrad?
No, she did not. She went
Okay.
to Kansas City, UMKC, for her undergraduate, and then she was at Oklahoma City University for part of her graduate work, and then at Harvard for some of the rest of the graduate work. So,
Well, how did you land at OSU?
my brother went to
Okay.
OSU before me, and there just wasn't any. I mean, that's where I was going.
You had visited him on
I had
campus
visited him a
couple
number of times and really enjoyed the campus. I actually started my college career off at Connors,
Okay.
at junior college, playing baseball, and realized that I wasn't going to make a living playing baseball, and I better go get my education, and so I transferred to Oklahoma State.
What years were you there?
I started the second semester of 1974, it would be, and then I was there 74, 75, 76, and graduated in 77.
In 3 years, then.
3.5, yeah.
3.5.
Actually, I graduated high school in 73, and then
I see.
that fall semester I played baseball at Connors, and then transferred at Bright to Oklahoma State.
Right. Did you know from the start when you enrolled that you were going to major in finance?
No, I did not. In fact, I was 3 years as an accounting major, and my advisor was Dr. Anderson, who was head of the accounting department for years and years. And I just decided I didn't want to be an accountant, and really didn't want to sit for the CPA and do that work. So we talked about it, and about the only thing I could do was transfer, without losing quite a few hours, was transfer to a finance degree. And so I ended up taking 18 hours my senior year, both semesters, mostly upper level finance classes, because I really wanted to get out in 4 years and get into the real world and maybe make some money.
That's quite a heavy load.
Yes.
Who's the professor or two who stood out for you?
You know, Anderson always did as my advisor, and he was very easy to talk to, and he's probably the one that comes to mind the most.
What was the environment on campus outside of your program like? So the rest of the campus environment.
Well, much smaller than it is now. I think the enrollment was about 15,000, 16. So, it was certainly much smaller group. It was a very fun place to be. I think even as a freshman, you made friends easy at Stillwater and Oklahoma State, and you were very welcome in most anything that you did, and it was just a fun place to be.
Where did you have most of your classes? What buildings?
They were all over, but obviously most of my upper level classes were at the business school, and we went to, the classroom building, I think. We were there for quite a few of those. But a lot of them were at the business. Most all my accounting classes were there. My business law class was there, which was a very interesting, and I thoroughly did enjoy that. That was kind of like the movie Paper Chase. So I can't remember what that teacher's name. I was trying to remember what his name was, but he was I remember him being an OU graduate, and if you had not studied your cases, you just didn't go to his class, because he invariably would pick on you.
You didn't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Where did you live?
Oh gosh, let's see. Freshman year, I lived at Kerr Drummond. Actually Kerr. Then I moved out into an apartment with 4 other guys at an apartment complex called Century 21. And then my junior year, I lived with one other guy on Husband Street in a small apartment there. And then my senior year, we moved on out by Century 21. It's that apartment complex further out to the north, and I can't recall the name of that.
Now, were your roommates also in accounting, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
You had
No.
met them in other classes?
Yeah, we met, the three guys that I lived with my freshman year. We kind of met at Kerr, and one of the guys was from Bartlesville, which I knew before, and but the other two, one was from New Jersey and one was from another town here in Oklahoma. And then my junior year, I lived with a guy that I knew from high school in Bartlesville, and then my senior year, I lived with the guy that I worked with at the Old Collegian.
So you mentioned your parents would contribute $50, is that right?
Yeah.
A semester, and you had saved some money, but also had received a WIMPS
Yes.
scholarship. So did you have to do any other kind of work while you were a student?
Well, yeah, I worked at the Old Collegian.
Oh, the Old College, yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
and
forgot.
put the paper out. We worked every
Right.
night from usually went down there about 7 and got out about midnight.
That's a good chunk of time.
It was a good chunk of time, yes. Yes.
But you enjoyed it.
Well, I guess you could say I enjoyed it. It was necessary.
And it paid for some
Yes, it
extra
helped,
things.
it helped pay my way through, through school, at least the meals. And I also worked there during the summertime in Bartlesville at the Bureau of Mines, which was my summer job.
I see. Did you take your meals at Kerr? Did they have a
I
meal
did,
program?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did take my meals at Kerr when I lived there.
And then you were cooking for yourself after that.
Yes, and then it was, slim and far between, yeah. I think I went in weighing about 180 and graduated weighing about 140.
How about transportation to and from campus when you were living off campus?
I had a car, and I think it was a '68 green Pontiac Le Mans. So it got me around.
Yeah. How about dating? Was that a...
Well, I had a high school sweetheart that actually is my wife now, and we dated pretty much through. She's a year younger than I am, but pretty
She
much.
went to OSU
And she went to Oklahoma State too. Yeah, there were some periods that it was on and off during that time period, but ultimately we ended up getting married, and have been so for 37 years now.
Neat. What other types of activities or on-campus organizations were you involved with?
Really wasn't a whole lot of time to do much of anything else when I was working, trying to go to school. I did participate in some of the intramural athletics. We had a softball team that we called the Social Zeros.
That's a great name.
Yeah, well, none of us were in a fraternity. We were all independents, and so we just got the name of Social Zeros. And so we played football. We played the intramural softball. But really, I didn't have much time. I mean,
Right.
to do much else but go to school.
With the old college job. How about as a spectator, were you able to go to any sporting events?
We did go to a lot of the football games, and the wrestling matches were something that during that time we used to stand in line to get into Gallagher to watch a wrestling match.
Right.
Yeah, for hours we were out there in line.
And your wife, girlfriend at the time, liked it as much as you
She did, yes, she did.
Do you recall anything about any particular campus traditions?
No, really not too much. I remember streaking started my freshman year.
Well, tell us about that.
Oh, golly. I was staying in Kerr, and I was not there. I was living on, I think, the 7th floor, and I was studying for a test, and I think it was like Thursday before spring break or something, and started looking out the window because I kept hearing this noise down there. And I mean, I looked out the window and there were thousands of people and
my
down around the
goodness.
Kerr area, and there were streakers running around, and yeah, it was pretty wild. I think that's the year they threw the big, the steak place down there on the corner. It's not there anymore, but they had the big cow.
Oh,
out
yes.
front. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the kids broke it loose and took it up the strip and threw it in Theta Pond.
In Theta Pond,
Yeah.
right. Well, that was a historic year.
Yeah, yes, that was my freshman year.
What was your favorite place on campus?
You know, we used to go to the Gray Fox a lot after I had a finance class with a friend of mine from Bartlesville, and him and I used to go over there and play shuffleboard for hours, you know, before I had to go to work, and I remember doing that and met a lot of people just over there in the back room playing shuffleboard. So.
How about the most popular place maybe to hang out with a date on campus?
You know, I'm not sure there was any one particular place that I would say would be the best. There were a few dances that I remember we went to at the Student Union. We went to a couple things, plays that were put on, and did that. You know, as far as, you know, I remember we used to just walk across campus, and you know, we went out to Boomer Lake a few times, walked around out there, particularly when the weather got nice. So I don't know if I could say there was any one specific place that we liked better than any other. It was a fun place, a fun time.
Right. Did you go home very often while you were in school?
Yeah, a little bit. We went home
Once a month, maybe?
Yeah, probably about once a month. And then, of course, during the Christmas break and spring break, I went home and worked. And so.
Right, to work at where you had your summer job?
Yes, yes.
How about homecoming? Do you remember having any memories of homecoming?
Wasn't nearly as big back then as it is now, that's for sure. Yeah, it was not quite the event back in the early 70s that it is now. And football, we were not real good during my time in school. So no, I don't have any great memories about football games. Other than we got beat by OU every year, but my senior year, we did beat them in Norman that year.
Oh, wow.
So,
cause to celebrate there.
Yeah, it was a big celebration.
Did you go to that game?
Well, actually, that's a funny story because, yes, I was headed to there with my wife now and had tickets, and we decided that rather than going to the game, it was an afternoon game, we'd just go to the zoo instead. And so
you missed the one time?
Yeah, and so I went up to get a Coke at the concession stand, and they had the game on the radio, and I don't know, it was into the fourth quarter, and we were ahead, and substantially ahead, and it really looked like we were going to win, so I went back and got my wife, and I said, we're going back to Stillwater, and because it looks like, believe it or not, we're going to win. And we hit town shortly after the football game ended, and policemen were out, fire trucks were out,
wow.
Sirens were going, so yeah, missed the game. And I swore at that time I would never miss another OU-OSU game until I saw us beat them, and it took 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And I went to every single game, yeah. And it was finally a 13-0 game in Norman.
And what year?
Oh, golly, that's when the one year that, the ex-Miami coach coached them. I don't remember exactly what year that was,
Well,
but it was at least 20 years.
We'll look it up.
Yeah, you can look it up.
That's
yeah.
a neat story. Thank you for telling us about that. Do you have any special memories about the library or?
Oh, yeah, I went over there all the time, particularly when I was my freshman year. It was difficult to study, in the dorm.
Yeah.
And so I used to go to the library, and that's where I did most of my studying. When I moved out in the apartment, then, it was much quieter, and I usually was able to study there. But if I needed to do any research or anything of that nature, it was always done at the library.
Right, right. How about any special memories about the town of Stillwater itself, other than the Gray Fox?
Yeah. No, I really don't have any special memories about the town, other than, again, it's just probably one of the better time periods. I think most anybody would say that's college is a really great time.
How about graduation day?
Oh, that was interesting. We did it on Lewis Field, and I actually had the wrong colored tassel. They gave me the wrong colored tassel, and they tried to line me up with the people that were getting master's degrees, and I said, no, I don't belong here. I'm supposed to be over there. So they finally got that straightened out and got me the correct colored tassel to wear, and so I could march in with the people that were getting their bachelor's.
Were you and your wife engaged at that point, or? Not yet.
No, not yet. We did not get engaged. Actually, I had I went back, after I graduated, I went back to Bartlesville and didn't have a job at that point. Actually was working my summer job again at the Bureau of Mines, and was contemplating going into grad school and in the MBA program in economics. When a friend of the family called me who worked at Home Savings Loan in Bartlesville and wanted to interview me and offered me a job, and so I accepted that, and shortly after that we decided to get married.
So that was your first banking job?
That was my first banking job, yes.
What was your job there?
I was a single-family mortgage lender, so I made home loans.
Was it a good entree into the business?
It was a start, and which I think is the important thing, is to get a start. I did meet one of the vice presidents there, named Buddy Lawler, who in '78 came down here to Claremore, to this bank. And then about 4 months after he came down here, he called me and asked me to come down.
I see.
And so I decided to go ahead and come down here.
And what was your position when you came down then?
Well, we were a very, very small bank. The bank was actually originally opened in 1976. So it had only been open about 3 years. It opened with $100,000 pledged CD money. It was the old 8-year 8% CD. So we really didn't have any free capital. We were paying 8% on the capital we had. But when I came, the bank was $4 million in assets, and they had lost 96,000 of the 100, so they had 4,000 in capital. Today we would definitely not be here. We would have been closed. But back then they gave you quite a bit more leeway or latitude. The directors had to pledge another 50 grand, and we ended up participating in a Rogers County bond issue that generated about $250,000 for the bank. And then in 1983 we sold $1 million worth of stock and came out and built this building in '83, and rocked along pretty good until about '89, and '88, '89 with the recession and the oil bust and real estate bust. And the bank came very close to failure during that period of time, and one good thing about that is it gave me an opportunity to be president of the bank at 34, which I was fairly young, but I think I
Wow.
was the only one that they could find to take the job. And it was a tough couple years, but we worked our way out of the issues and formed a holding company and pumped enough money down into the bank to get us into capital compliance. And from that point forward until 2011, when my partner and I decided to sell the bank to Bank First, we did very, very well.
What were some of the things that you think distinguished you from other banking services in the area or other banks?
Well, there's not a lot of difference in banks. We all pretty much offer, the same product. I think what differentiates us during that period of time was really the service that we provided to our customers. And banking is really a relationship-driven industry, and creating those relationships was very important to me and to the other officers of the bank.
So I saw some pictures and read an article about your artwork, and it was very nice and grounded in a sense of place and Claremore scenes specifically.
Yes.
Many Claremore scenes. So what did you have to do with selecting it?
Well, not a lot, other than we hired a gentleman and his wife out of Oklahoma City. That actually I was our marketing director for Bank First is the one that gave me their name, and they came up and we said that we would like for them to be mostly pictures about Claremore in Rogers County.
Right.
I have 5 offices. 3 of them are actually in the city limits of Claremore, and then 1 in Verdigris and 1 in Inola. So we wanted to include the entire county, and so probably 90% of the pictures are about Claremore or about something in the county.
So that was your idea
Yes,
to do that?
yes.
Yeah.
We wanted to feature Claremore and Rogers County.
Right. How many employees?
I have about 60 employees at the 5 offices.
Mm-hmm. How did your background at OSU prepare you for your job?
Oh, I think it very much prepared me. The hard work and the dedication, going through the finance classes and the accounting classes, it really presented me, I think, with an opportunity. And then, that's all you can ask, and you just have to take advantage of that when it presents itself.
Right, right. What do you consider your biggest success at the bank?
Oh, I think very definitely the biggest success is, coming into a bank with $4 million in assets and $4,000 in capital. It would be almost unheard of for that financial institution to survive. So, being able to fight through that, there were times when we had to package up some home loans that we'd make and take them over to the bank across the street and borrow money just so we could keep the doors open. But it was a different time than it is
right.
now. The regulators at the end gave us time to be successful, and we were. And then, again, with the recession, 88, 89, and oil bust, the bank was definitely on the list to be closed. We were part of what's called a matchmaker program, and where we were supposed to, if a stronger bank came with an offer to purchase us, then we were supposed to accept that.
Oh.
And we did have an offer at one time, and it was too low, and I turned it down and thought it was best for the shareholders. And regulators weren't not very happy with me, and pretty well read me the riot act, and fortunately, the bank didn't fail and it survived. So I just think taking the bank through those 2 situations, and very difficult situations, and surviving that, and probably my 2 fondest memories.
Yeah, sounds like a really challenging time. You're also a member of the CIEAA, the Claremore Industrial and Economic Authority Association?
Yeah, the CEDA, the Claremore Industrial and Economic Development Association.
Oh, Development
Yeah.
Association. And I think I saw you were treasurer and secretary at different times.
I have been at different times. I've actually been on that entity for, gosh, almost 20 years.
Wow. So I imagine one benefit is, again, relationship building.
It is.
But also possibly being able to help shape sort of what happens in Claremore. Can you talk a little bit about your work with the group?
Well, sure. It's, you know, the Industrial Authority is probably one of the I think one of the most important associations that we have in Claremore, and it helps to recruit and bring in new businesses. Here over the past 5 or 6 years, the city of Claremore has also asked us to take on the retail development in an attempt to try to increase the sales tax, which is what funds any small town or any town in Oklahoma is sales tax generation. So we work very closely with the city council and the city manager here in Claremore and have for years. We originally were funded by use tax, and now we have a contract directly with the city to perform these functions. But we have an industrial park in Claremore. That first industrial park is pretty well full, and there's probably about 3,800 to 4,000 jobs out there. We've acquired another 150 acres, or 100-acre tract, and then another 150-acre tract. The 100-acre tract is developed now. We've got one manufacturing company there, and are working on selling the land and bringing in other ones. We got a Tiger grant to bring in a railroad spur into that industrial park, which was a huge deal for us. So, you know, we're really trying to be the engine that drives the workforce and the growth for the city of Claremore. We actually commissioned a housing study here last summer, and, you know, just to be able to show developers and so forth the need for housing and the growth that's occurring here in Claremore and Rogers County.
Neat. Main Street looks really good.
Yeah, Main Street looks good. It does.
How have you retained your ties with OSU and the foundation and the School of Business?
You know, probably the School of Business just here recently more so than over the years. They seem, particularly with the new building coming up, they've reached out and you know, contacted me, and I'm sure other alumni, to be the Alumni Board of Governors. You know, I was fortunate to serve on that, and of course I always go back for the football games and, so, and the basketball games.
That's great. That's great. And I understand you and your wife are dog lovers.
We are. We are. We have we've got a lab that is a therapy dog, and she takes them around to the Children's Hospital, St. Francis Children's Hospital, at least once a month, and sees the kids there. And then she also works with a couple of schools, grade schools, with kids that are having trouble reading, and for some reason they seem to really enjoy reading to the dog.
Non-judgmental.
Yeah, I guess. And then we have another kind of mixed breed that she's working with to train her to also be a service dog. And then we have a mutt that's 17 years old.
What should a visitor know, see, or experience here in Claremore?
Oh, you know, Claremore is just a really neat town. You know, we have the Will Rogers Memorial. I think is probably you know, from a Visitors Bureau standpoint, one of the things that you definitely, when you come to Claremore, you want to see. We also have the Gun Museum, which is the largest we still tout it as the largest gun collection in the world, and I think it is. You know, we have a Claremore Lake, which is just a beautiful lake. And, you know, we're 20 minutes from Lugal Lake. It's, you know, northeast Oklahoma. It's just a beautiful place, and particularly Claremore.
And you have two daughters
I do.
Who attend OSU?
One of them graduated from Oklahoma State, and she did get her degree in accounting and stayed in accounting, and she's currently working at Chesapeake.
Okay.
And then
in Oklahoma City.
In Oklahoma City,
okay.
Yeah. They live in Edmond. And the oldest daughter actually played basketball at Winfield up in Kansas, and for 4 years, and undergraduate was from Winfield, and she was accepted into the OUPA school and is now a practicing PA at Hillcrest in Tulsa.
Neat. Are people you know aware of your OSU connection?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They always say I bleed orange.
I know the receptionist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Yes, I love Oklahoma State.
How did attending OSU and earning your degree impact your personal life?
Oh, just there was no doubt. I mean, it's just you know, I never would have been able to start the career that I started in the banking business without the degree from Oklahoma State. And, you know, it's been a very rewarding career for me, both personally and financially. And so it never would have happened without Oklahoma State.
What advice would you give to students at OSU today?
You know, it's a foundation building process for your ultimate career. You need to hit the books, you need to study hard, you need to work at it, because it certainly will help you when you get out in the real world and start your career.
Would you have any advice for faculty or administrators?
Be nice. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I just think it's teach the kids to have a well-rounded education, you know, they're very important to the education and the future of those of our kids.
What do you think it is about Oklahoma State that sparks loyalty?
You know, it's just such a neat place. I mean, and you make so many friends, and there's so many fond memories. You know, you're at that age where you feel like you can do anything, and you know, it's just something about that university that, you know, I always call it God's country when I'm going back. You know, because I love Oklahoma State.
Is there anything you would like to add that we didn't cover today?
I can't really think of anything.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.